while I was out riding the graveyard shift midnight till dawn. The moon was bright as a reading light for a letter from an old friend back home. He asked me, why do you write for your money? And why do you rope for short pay? You ain't getting nowhere and you're losing your share. Lord, you must have gone crazy out there. Last night I run on to Jenny. She's married and she has a good life. You sure miss the track when you never come back. She's a perfect professional's wife. She asked me, why do you write for your money? And why do you rope for short pay? You ain't getting nowhere and you're losing your share. Lord, you must have gone crazy out there. Then they never seen the northern lights. They've never seen a hawk on the wing. They've never seen the spring hit the great divide. No, they never heard old Camp Cookie sing. Well, I read up the last of my letter.
These two fellas you're going to meet are representatives of the annual gathering of the Cowboy Poets in Elko, Nevada, January the 29th through the 31st. And you may not realize it, and I did until a few years ago, that poetry is part of the cowboy tradition. And every year, 50 or 60 of these poets gather together and put on a show. So tonight, representing are Waddy Mitchell and Baxter Black. Gentlemen. It's Waddy, right?
Yeah.
Good to see you again. How are you?
Just real good, thanks.
Is this the second or third time you've been with us? Third time, and Baxter, this is your first?
Yes, sir.
Your first time out of the chute, huh?
And I'm proud to be here.
Yeah. So, does this thing get bigger every year?
Seems to, yeah. We've gotten some nice press, and there's folks that are finding they like it and coming.
Now, Baxter, I understand you started out as a veterinarian, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And now you perform frequently.
Well, I wound up doing this cowboy poetry for a living. Now I go to big places like Buffalo, Wyoming.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be in Sioux Center, Iowa, Saturday night.
Sioux Center, Iowa. Good. Okay. You want to give us a little sample?
Well, there's traditional cowboy poetry, and then there's a lunatic fringe, which is kind of my area.
Okay.
And I might wind up standing up. If that's all right,
okay. Sure.
Just
so okay. We'll follow you.
This plastic.
Yeah. Well, you can move that out of the way if you want.
Now, cowboys and vegetarians don't necessarily always see eye to eye.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm in the cow business, so
sure.
And so I found out the other day that they had done some studies, and it turns out that they found that plants feel pain. Pain.
No, I didn't know.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that inspired this little piece entitled "The Vegetarian's Nightmare."
Okay.
Or a dissertation on plants' rights. Broccoli power! Ladies and diners, I make you a shameful, degrading confession. A deed of disgrace in the name of good taste. Though I did it, I meant no aggression. I had planted a garden last April and lovingly sang it a ballad. But later in June, beneath the full moon, forgive me, I wanted a salad. So I slipped out and fondled a carrot, caressing its feathery top. With the force of a brute, I tore out out the root, and it whimpered and came with a pop. And laying my hand on a radish, I jerked, and it left a small crater. Then with the blade of my true value spade, I exhumed a slumbering tater. Celery I plucked, I twisted a squash. Tomatoes were wincing in fear. I choked the romaine, it screamed out in pain. Their anguish was filling my ears. I finally came to the lettuce as it cringed at the top of the row. With one wicked slice, I beheaded it twice. As it writhed, I dealt a death blow. I butchered the onions and parsley, till my hoe was all covered with gore. I chopped and I whacked without looking back. Then I stealthily slipped in the door. My bounty lay naked, dying. So I drowned them to snuff out their life. I sliced and I peeled as they thrashed, and they reeled on the cutting board under my knife. I violated tomatoes, so their innards could never survive. I grated and ground till they made not a sound, then I boiled the tater alive. And then I took the small broken pieces I had tortured and killed with my hands, and tossed them together, heedless of whether they suffered or made their demands. I ate them. Forgive me, I'm sorry. But hear me, though I'm a beginner, those plants feel pain. Though it's hard to explain to someone who eats them for dinner, I intend to begin a crusade for plants' rights, including chickpeas. And the ACLU will be helping me, too. In the meantime, please pass the blue cheese.
That's marvelous. That's great. Thank you, Baxter. We'll be back.
Saddle up, man, and go ride the foothills of old California. Saddle up, man, and go ride del Viaje de Portola. Well, come hunker down by the fire, boys, and I'll tell you a cowboy tale. Look deep in the flames of the campfire, you'll see it all unveiled. We were riding the trail of Portola and had passed the tequila around when a fog settled over Serrano Ridge, where we'd laid our gear on the ground. And then out of the fog rode a stranger, and he tied to a sumac tree, and he warmed himself up by the campfire, but Lord, he was hard to see. Then he asked if we'd heard of the hanging, and a chill shook us down to the bone. But we'd stopped at the tree and now wondered why he was out riding the ridge all alone. Saddle up, man, and go riding the foothills of old California. Saddle up, man, and go riding del Viaje de Portola. We were huddled inside of our ponchos, and the shooters and fire kept us warm. And the stranger sang and his clear voice rang, but you could hardly make out his form. He sang of the trek of Portola, and of cowboys who rode here as well, of a man swinging free from a hanging tree. In our fire sat the image of hell. There was Tony Gil Gordon and Bucker, Bill Ray Serrano and me, and all of us swear that we saw him there, and none of us disagree. And he danced in the flames of our campfire, and images rose as he spoke, and the shadowy scene moved about and streamed of the spirals of swirling smoke. Saddle up, man, and go riding the foothills of old California. Saddle up, man, and go riding del viaje de Portola. Well, the fall drizzled down like a blanket till it dripped from the tip of my hat. There in the mist, the campfire hissed as he stepped from the darkness and spat. At the sumac, his horse grew uneasy as he pawed and he stamped at the ground. And his tongue worked a fit on his Spanish bit, and his snort gave a whistling sound. Well, nobody there saw him leave us. We just suddenly knew he was gone.
I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the desert bare, man. I breathe up out there, man. Travel, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. Well, after Audubon, Albion, Osceola, Buffalo, Bend, Brooklyn, Gillen, Waterloo, Waukee, Walk on Charles City, Creston, Preston, Watcher, Wapiti, Cedar Falls, Cedar Rapids, Sydney, Shelby. I've been everywhere.
All I want for Christmas is whatever you can leave, but I'd settle for a new wife who would stay through New Year's Eve.
The horse I ride is old, but he has served me well. Coat like old tobacco, rich and warm. He is old, but he is sound, and my rein chains ring like bells. We fit well together as we glide above the storm. And the boots I wear are old, but they have served me well. Leather like old tobacco, cracked and brown. The tops are scuffed and broken, and my spur chains ring like bells. My rowels gleam like the starlight, and up here we spurn the ground. And the trails I ride are new, even though I've made the circle many times before. For they change with every season and with every shift of light, from the summit where the clouds fall to the sweep of valley floor. And the saddle I ride is old, but it has served me well. Leather like old tobacco, buffed and smooth. It fits me like a friend, with no secrets left to tell. Astride I make the circle, and I ride where I choose. And the trails I ride are new, even though I've made the circle many times before. For they change with every season and with every shift of light, from the summit where the clouds fall to the sweep of valley floor. And the life I live goes on, it fits me oh so well. Old and new together, evergreen. I mount my horse at dawning, my heart rings like a bell. We ride through the canyons where the air is fresh and clean.
I'm a lucky man, and I know I am, to be able to get around and like I do. And I consider a lot of people my friends, and I'm going to dedicate this poem to all of you who went out of your way to come here tonight, and by gosh, we all appreciate it. It's called Take Care of Your Friends. Now, friend is a word that I don't throw around. Though it's used and abused, I still like the sound, and I save it for people who've done right by me. And I know I can count on if ever need be. Some of my friends drive big limousines. They own ranches and banks and visit with queens. And some of my friends are up to their neck in overdue notes and can't write a check. They're singers or ropers or writers of prose, and others, God bless them, can't blow their own nose. I guess being friends don't have nothing to do with talent or money or knowing who's who. It's a comfortable feeling when you don't have to care about choosing your words or being quite fair, because friends will just listen and let go on by those words you don't mean and not bat an eye. And it makes a friend happy to see your success. They're proud of your good side and forgive all the rest, and that ain't so easy all of the time. Sometimes we get crazy and seem to go blind, and your friend just might have to take you on home or remind you sometime that you're not alone, or ever so gently pull you back to the ground when you think you can fly with no one around. A hug or a shake, whichever seems right, is the high point of giving. And I'll tell you tonight, all worldly riches and tributes of men can't hold a candle to the worth of a friend. Thank you very much. Way out on the mountain, there ain't nobody counting exactly when a cowboy's gonna fly. But when you hear it thunder, there ain't no need to wonder. He's saddled up and headed for the sky. He's a Colorado cowboy, no sod-busting plowboy, as wild as the Rockies he rides. Cougar in the canyon, the devil's home companion, riding with a fire in his eye. Well, mother's on the hillside, he's coming in landslide. Lock your doors and look out down below. Well, I know you think you caught her, but you better hide your daughter, 'cause I'll guarantee you something's gonna blow. He's a Colorado cowboy, no sod-busting plowboy, as wild as the Rockies he rides. Cougar in the canyon, the devil's home companion, riding with the fire in his eye. Well, I thought I would throw in one of those delicate little veterinary stories, where we save the dog's life or something like that. Actually, I'm a cow vet, and it's not quite that glamorous. We'll see how this goes over, and then we'll dig a little deeper. But in the wonderful world of bovine ailments, there is one glaring exception to this little observation. That is the uterine prolapse. Okay, well, there goes the ladies' club. A uterine prolapse in a cow, diagnosis is rarely a problem. And treatment is never easy. Now, I never did any small animal veterinary work, but I've always been curious if mice prolapse. Our prairie dogs. I'm thinking something you could put back in with a pencil eraser.
Because let me tell you, friends, when a 1,000-pound cow prolapses, it will not fit in your car trunk. And trying to put it back where it came from is like trying to stuff a smoked ham down a sink drain. It will not go. It came from out of nowhere, like a prolapse in the night, which in fact is what it was, my friends, the cow vet's scourge and plight, that pudgy pink projectile from those monster movie scenes, like some whopping giant burrito filled with attitude and beans. I was soon laid down behind him on a hillside in the muck, while the cowboy shined his high beams from his perch there in the truck. His rope stretched from the bumper to her front legs tied in haste as I wallowed in the darkness like a frog stripped to the waist. You can strip to the waist from either end, ladies and gentlemen. And if I strip to the waist, you'd know what a frog looks like stripped to the waist. If I took off my pants. It was bigger than a tree trunk. It was slick as old chow mein. It was heavy as a carpet someone left out in the rain. I tried to gain some purchase as I pressed my fist in tight. It was thrashing like a porpoise and was putting up a fight. I got it in a hammer lock. It was like a rabid dog. I wrapped my legs around it like a monkey on a log. I pushed until my shoulder disappeared inside the mass as I scrabbled for a foothold in the mud and frozen grass. But alas, with one huge effort, she expelled me from her grip. I shot out like a cannon, rolled and did a double flip, but I grabbed her tail in passing, and with strength born out of war, I dove at the appendage like some punch-drunk matador. I lifted her hind quarters and I swung her side to side, and then, like smart men do, used my head. To push it back inside. It was dark there for a minute. Hard to catch my breath. But there she lay, my patient I had saved from certain death. The cowboy rolled his window down and said, "Doc, are you all right?" He gunned the engine several times and headlights got real bright. I've seen a prolapse done before, but never quite like that. Oh, they taught us that in vet school. But I think it ate my hat. I went to my high school reunion a while back, and though we didn't look the same as we did then, it was a treat to be reminded of your upbringing. Of course, there were several there who were good friends then, and they still are. But as time goes by, we get busy, and some of the most important people in our lives have been pushed to the back of our mind. I'm thinking of one in particular. I can't remember his number. I don't call him often enough. His birthday always escapes me because I don't keep up with that stuff.
and I'm lucky if I see him even once or twice a year. But I'm really not complaining, because we're still close. We're just not near. Hey, I recognize his daughter's voice. I remember when she was born. Hey, I was there when he got married. I held the ring his wife has worn for all these years, his darling. You know, she hadn't changed a bit. And him and me, we're marking time by the bad habits that we quit. Together, we're ambidextrous. And though we're really not a pair, we got each other covered, and between us, a full head of hair. A part of each other's gristle, as inveterate as bone. And it's nice how life can fix it, so you don't have to go it alone. As I sit here blowing smoke rings from the pipe dreams that we've had, I'm wondering if I've told him how many times it's made me glad just to know he's out there somewhere, like a dollar in my shoe, and how much it would please me if he felt the same way too. When I add up all my assets, he's one thing I can't appraise. What's a promise or a handshake or a phone call worth these days? It's a credit with no limit, and it's a debt that never ends. And I'll owe him till forever, 'cause you can't be more than friends. To all my friends out there, this is Baxter Black from Out There.
Well, the cattle are prowling, the coyotes are howling, out where the doggies bowl. Whispers are jingling, the cowboy is singing his lonesome cattle call. Doo, doo, dee, 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 dee. Oh, dee, 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 doo, doo, dee, 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 dee. Dee, dee, oh, doo, dee, dee. Well, he rides in the sun till his day's work is done, and he rounds up the cattle each fall. Doo, dee, doo, doo, dee, 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 singing his cattle call. Doo, doo, dee, 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 dee. Doo, dee, doo, 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 dee, 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 dee. Hey, dee, oh, doo, dee, dee. Hey, dee, oh, doo.
Pickup truck that is spanking new, just me and the dog, but there's room for you. Is that rural enough for you? I had a blue tick hound that died last fall. I had him stuffed, he's on the wall. Is that rural enough for you? Is that rural enough for you?
I am writing for the cowboy. Many good ranchers and rich oil men, I love them all. I do. And if they like being around cowboys, that's fine. But when I write the story, I'm aiming at the guy that's working for them, because that's me. Rudy? Lo siento, y usted no puede ser.
It started with milking the cow and feeding the chickens on his parents' place.
When we went out to feed the chickens, we had this mean old rooster.
Seems all things agricultural were in his blood from the start. His first foray into poetry came years later, in a college class.
And I wrote this poem, and it was I know it had a religious point to it, but it came back from the English teacher, and at the top, and then they had those old red wax pencils.
had a big red wax circle with an F in it. And the teacher had written, "Write about what you know."
Well, he knew hard work and he knew cowboys. And over time, he went on to write about what he knew.
Cowboy poetry is about wrecks. Horse wrecks, dog wrecks, cow wrecks, shipwrecks, financial wrecks. And that's, I guess, my place in life, too.
His most recent effort is called Lessons from a Desperado Poet.
I dedicated this poem to a friend of mine who fell while sitting on a mule's neck backwards and broke his back. So I wrote this for him, but it applies to a lot of people who lose their mind sometimes. It's called Living on the Edge. There, but for a whim of fate, go you and I. Any man who chases lightning or thinks that he can fly. Are we stupid? Are we crazy? Are we rebels without cause? No, the reason is much simpler. We bet the pot because the drummer who keeps time for us stays just beyond the ledge, and one only hears his cadence when one's living on the edge. You'll never know just how much I love you. The truth is, friends, we've needed this. We've been so dry so long, I thought we'd have to sell the cows and pay the piper's song. The winter grass just lay there stiff for months. It never changed. I'd walk out through the crackling brown that covered all my range and watch the wind blow dust clouds where good grass should have been. I'd count the bales in the stack and calculate again the days of feeding I had left before I'd have to face the ultimate decision, what I'd do to save the place. The weatherman was helpful, except he always told the truth. Fiddling chance of 10% meant it just rained in Duluth. And that's, keep her coming, baby. That's nice for Minnesota, but it don't help me a bit. I gave up chewing Red Man so I wouldn't have to spit. But he said last night, a chance of rain, more than just a trace. I washed the car and left the windows open just in case. And sure enough, this morning, big old clouds come rolling in, and they parked above the driveway, and the thunder made a din that rattled all the windows in the house where I sat still. And at 2, it started raining, and I still ain't got my fill. It's coming down in buckets, like it's paying back a debt, and me, I'm standing in the front yard in my shorts and soaking wet. When the sun comes out tomorrow and sparkles all around off pools and puddles standing like big diamonds in the ground, I remember feast and famine, but when it comes to rain, you take the feast when offered, if you live out on the plain.
Now, farmers and ranchers have an intimate relationship with the weather, for instance, with nature and the outdoors. And it's sort of a solitary pursuit in a lot of ways. You spend a lot of time on the tractor or a horseback. But it is a profession where, out of necessity, you make some strange bedfellows. The banker took his ledger out. The farmer took a seat. Let's see, I lent you 20 thou for cattle, corn, and wheat. Let's talk about your cattle first. The farmer's face looked pained. You know how bad the market's been. I lost 15, he explained. 15 what? 15 cents a pound or 15 died of thirst? No, $15,000 lost. But hey, it could be worse. The banker swallowed hard, then asked, well, what about your grain? The hoppers ate up all my wheat, and the sweet corn needed rain, and the pig got sick, and my son got drunk and joined the Moonies church. I figure I'm down 40 thou. But hey, it could be worse. What do you mean it could be worse? That ain't even funny. The farmer shrugged and then replied, could have been my money.
We have some sad news to share. Our friend, the cowboy poet, Baxter Black, has passed away. He's been a fixture on Cattleman to Cattleman from the beginning, but Baxter was a legend long before he appeared on our show. You might have known him from his many books, read his articles in your local newspaper, or perhaps you caught him on one of his multiple appearances on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Baxter loved livestock and the people who spent their lives caring for them. He had a special gift for putting into poetry the experiences of everyday farm and ranch life and finding the humor and life lessons embedded in those moments. His mix of down-home humor and observations made his segments popular with folks from all walks of life, and we'll miss sharing his wit and wisdom on our program. We send our deepest condolences to Baxter's family and friends, and we hope you can find some comfort in the outpouring of love from so many of us who are lifelong Baxter fans. God bless you, Baxter, for all you did, not only for our show, but for the entire agricultural community. You'll be missed. Vaya con Dios, my friend.